Hello and welcome back to another lesson in algebra. We're going to be going over multiplying polynomials. We're going to be using algebra tiles today to just get you acquainted with how to do this. So before we begin, let's just actually go over what algebra tiles are and what they stand for. So first one, which is x squared, is going to look like pretty much a giant square. The next one is actually, whenever you see red, that's going to be a negative x squared, which is also a giant box or giant square. X is going to be a rectangle about the same length as the sides of an x squared. You'll see why in just a second. And then, of course, a negative would be a red rectangle. And then 1, the unit of 1, is going to be a smaller square. And then a negative would be a red square. All right. So just before we begin, just some things to go over. Whenever we multiply an x times another x, so I'm using two positives here, I'm going to be getting whenever I multiply an x times an x, I'll be getting x squared. And if you go back to the exponents video from the previous algebra credits, you'll go over exponent rules and why that is so, not just because of the algebra tiles. Also, whenever I multiply an x times a tiny square of 1, 1 times x is just, well, what do you know, 1x. So mathematically, just x times x equals x squared, and then x times 1 is just 1x. So let's get started. So here I have x times 2x plus 3. So let me just write this out. That's x, that x there. I'll place this x here. Okay. I have two x's, so I'll write two x's here. And I have 3 units, so I'll be using 1, 2, and 3. And again, everything's positive, hence the blue. So let's start here. X times x is going to be x squared, and another x times x would be another x squared, and x times 1, x again times 1, and again x again times 1. So I'm left with 1, 2 x squareds and 1, 2, 3 x's. Again, everything's positive. We just want to start off really simple. So that's how the algebra tiles work to multiply polynomials. Let's try another example using our, we got that squared away. If you just give me a second to move that up. All right, let's continue. So I have 2 times parentheses 3x plus 1. So let's do that. 2, give me 2 units right there. All right, 1, 2 times 3x plus 1. So that's 3x. I need 1, 2, 3 x's and a 1. Plot that right there. Okay, so I have 1 times x. That'll get me x. 1 times x. Another x and 1 times x. You guessed it, another x. 1 times 1. Another 1. 1 times x. 1 times x. 1 times x. 1 times 1. And so I'm left with, as I count up, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 x's, and 1, 2, 2 units. All right, so that's just a distributive property. Just want to, again, start off really simple. You could have used just distributive property to figure this out, but I just want to use the algebra tiles to kind of ease you into the process of multiplying polynomials. Let's try something a little bit more difficult. So 2x times x plus 1. So 2 x's, I'll put 1, 2 x's there. And then I'll put x plus 3. So I have 1x here, and how many do you think will go here? You're right, 3 little square boxes. So let's multiply x times x. That'll get us x squared. x times 1, x times 1, and x times 1. All right. Again, x times x is x squared, and then x times x, I'm sorry, x times 1, x times 1, and x times 1. So I'm left with, I have 2 x squareds and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 x's. All right, you ready for the tough stuff? Feel like you got the hang of this algebra tiles? Let's go on to something a little bit, ooh, what? Yes, binomial times a binomial. I call it a binomial because there's 2 pieces in here and there's 2 pieces in here. Pieces of what? Pieces of terms we're going to deal with in just a second. So let's start with this first one, x minus 3. I know there's negative, but let's try it out. So x and 3 negatives. So what color do you think that'll be? You guessed it, red. 1, 2, 3 reds. All right, let's try this one. Again, that's 2 x's. 1, 2, and then that's 1 positive. What color do you think that'll be? All right. Ooh. All right, so let's try this out. That's x times x is x squared, x times x, x squared, x times 1. There you go. 1 times x. You're right, it is going to be an x, but is it going to be a negative or a positive? So if I do my multi-DV man, I have a positive, right, times a negative, which would leave me what? Right, a negative x. Same thing here, right? A negative times a positive, negative times a positive, again, a negative times a positive, 1 times 1, negative times a positive. All right, so now I have some things here. I have how many x squareds? 2x squareds. Now here I have an x, 1 positive, and 1 negative. So these pairs will actually cancel out because x take away x. Why is that so? X take away x, or something take away itself is what? 0, right? So that's going to cancel out. How many x's am I left over with? 5. Okay, so 5, and are they negative or positive? They're negative, right? So now I have 1, 2, 3 units, and they're red, so what does that mean? All right, that's 3 negatives. All right, let's go on to something a little bit tougher. X plus 2 times 2x minus 3. Let's start with that one. That's x plus 2, and you know that's blue. And the next one is 2x minus 3. So that's 2 x's. Again, the color for the negative 3 will be red, so there you go. X times x is x squared. X times x is x squared. X times a negative. Now again, I have a negative times a positive. Negative times a positive, so that will be, these will all be negative, so they'll all be red. Let's try again. 1 times x, x, 1 times x, x. Again, a positive times a negative, positive times a negative. All right, that'll be a negative all the way around. The same thing with this row. 1 times x, 1 times x, 1 times 1. It's still going to be 1, but it's going to be a negative 1. All right, so I have 2x squareds. All right, I have a couple x's. Let's see how many of them cancel out though. That's 1 pair that cancels out, another pair that cancels out, and another pair that cancels out. So I will be left with plus 1x. And how many negatives do you see here? All right, 6 negatives. Awesome. Now let's try a little bit something tougher. If at any time you want to try any of these on, just pause me, try it out, and then see if you get it right. This one, ooh, there's a negative there. Beware. No, it's nothing. Let's try it out. That's a negative x. That's why it's red. And I have 2 positives. I have 2 x's and a negative 1. So let's multiply x times x. It will be an x squared, but because this is a positive, right, and that's a negative, I'm going to again use my multi-dB man, which most of you from my other videos have seen me use. A negative times a positive is going to be what? That can be red or blue? Red. Right. Same thing here. It's going to be red. Ooh, negative times a negative. How many of you need a multi-dB man for that one? If you do, go ahead and use that. Negative times a negative is going to be a positive x. Okay. 1 times x, 1x, 1 times x, 1x. 1 times 1 is going to be 1, but a negative or positive? Negative. 1 times x, 1 times x, 1 times, there you go. So let's group everything together. That's negative 2x squareds, positive 5x's, there wasn't anything canceling out, and 2 negatives. All right. Again, pause me at any time if you want to try any of these, but go ahead and pause me right now. Try this one out for me. All right. Hopefully you tried that out. This would be the response. Okay, x take away 2, or x negative 2. X minus 1, so there's an x and a minus 1. So x times x, x squared. X times negative 1, negative 1x. 1 times x, it's going to be an x, but it's going to be a negative x. 1 times 1, it's going to be 1, but negative times a negative is a positive. 1 times x, it's going to be a negative x. And 1 times 1, again, it's going to be 1, but it's going to be negative times a negative, which is a positive. So let's list everything out. That's x squared. I have 1, 2, 3 negative x's and 1, 2 positives. Again, why don't you, oh, well, no, what if I do not have algebra tiles? Then what do I do? Well, in that next segment that we're going to be doing, we're going to go over what do you do when you have no algebra tiles. But I wanted to at least introduce you to algebra tiles in this segment, so at least you have something to work with and why does it work the way it does as we move to tougher problems. Hopefully this was helpful. Please make sure if you have any questions for your teachers or tutors, please take those in. As always, happy math problem solving, and I'll see you in the next video.